Terrorism continues to take a huge toll of lives globally. Luckily, India hasn't seen many major terror incidents in the last decade or so, barring Pulwama, of course, but the threat still looms large. There are reports of Turkey and Pakistan planning to send Syrian terrorists to Kashmir Valley to create unrest in the valley. IndiaNarrative.com has reported extensively on this issue in the past, and today, to continue on that discussion, I'm joined with my colleague Rahul Kumar and Dr. Adil Rasheed from the MPIDSA Institute, and we're lucky to have him today. Thank you, sir, for joining us. As I said, that it's a long battle, and the kind of war that we are fighting against terrorism. Where does India really stand in its fight against radicalism and terrorism right now?
Yeah, I would thank you very much for having me here. At the outset, I must thank India Narrative for having me here. I would like to say that in the first part of your introduction, you mentioned about certain countries now trying to get India involved into their campaign. I think what we are seeing right now is that non-state actors are increasingly becoming state proxies. They've always been that. But now we are finding out that there's a degree of state revisionism happening around the world. So earlier there was a non-state radicalism that is now shifting towards state revisionism. Especially in West Asia, we are finding that countries like Iran and Turkey are moving towards what they call their religious orientation, and they are also trying to revive their imperialist, Sassanid versus Byzantine or whatever geopolitical games back to the fore. So we are finding that these new developments are taking place. They are becoming more ambitious as they are finding that America is planning to withdraw its forces from the region, trying to make a kind of an Asia pivot, which was always in the works but never could materialize. And this has thrown up a new set of challenges.
There have been reports, as I said, of even many youngsters from India traveling to places like Turkey, Ankara, Istanbul, and coming back completely radicalized.
Yeah, it all started with the coming up of the ISIS monstrosity that we found in West Asia, and it has subsided a bit, but then the jury is out on whether it has actually been so. But the main disturbing part is that that area is still the political arrangement, that kind of stability has not been restored to that area, even though ISIS that infrastructure may have been decimated. And things are still volatile there. ISIS is trying to make a comeback. And as long as that area remains restive and there are problems of security and stability in the region, we would continue to find these disturbing developments taking place there.
Can you elaborate? To what extent is India prepared to take on these threats?
I think that India has done a pretty good job. As our colleague here was mentioning, we have, considering the amount of stress the country has been facing in terms of terrorism, we have been able to foil a lot of terrorist incidents, especially since 2008. Both our military, our security agencies, our police forces, they have done a splendid job in gaining intelligence and in foiling any kind of attempted attacks. Particularly in a neighborhood which is a dangerous one, and the extended neighborhood is in fact equally restive and dangerous. So I would give full marks to our military and security agencies with respect to that. But the issue remains that now, as you know, terrorism changes and morphs, and a new set of methodologies are adopted. So we have to be on the vigil all the time. And just as we saw that Al-Qaeda changed into a more dangerous ISIS. So now that it appears that that threat is not in sight, we have to be on guard to see whether it transforms into something more malicious.
Addresses like the one made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the students of Aligarh Muslim University, AMU, it becomes very important.
Yes, yes. It was very nice to see our Prime Minister, after 50 years, an Indian Prime Minister addressed the Aligarh Muslim University function, and and that was a wonderful occasion for India to actually celebrate its diversity. He actually came forward and it was very well received also. Many of the students there and many of the teachers I'm in touch with, they were really.
And education, that is what you were saying about it, you were mentioning how education plays a very important role, especially for certain communities, even for Muslims, like that was written. Education is highly important to show them the right path. That is
exactly. Education is the most important thing, and also perceptions, and it is a battle of perceptions. Sometimes a real grievance is not as dangerous as the perceived grievance. And certain people, especially counterterrorism forces, they address to the real grievances and they don't look at the perceived grievances. But I think that they should also address the issue of perceived grievances, because even though they may be unfounded, they are actually causing a problem. So how we can clear even that kind of unfounded perception? It becomes our problem.
Can we do it like Macron did it in France? He received a lot of flack and he was painted as anti-Islam.
I think Mr. Macron, in certain sections of the press and in the media, even in the Western press, some sections of the Western media objected to his way of doing things. But I think he has a position which many Muslim countries have also welcomed, and especially in the GCC and other countries. You have to draw a line when it comes to religion and politics, so I think we have to be very careful because politics gets involved into state decision making, and whenever a counter-terrorism or counter-radicalization measure is taken, one should have a more united stand. We should try to get all the, as many as possible, all the political players on board so that it doesn't in itself become a controversial issue and causes polarization. This I'm not referring to in any particular case, as you mentioned. I'm not referring here to what happened in France or any other place. But whenever a counter-radicalization measure or counter-terrorism comes, when national interests are involved, we should try to get as big a consensus as possible on that, so that the more discrepancy in the narratives, as it were, comes, the efforts of the security agencies is somewhat hamstrung in that process. So trying to get everybody on board is more helpful. Otherwise, if from on your own side, if people start saying different things, it only helps the extremist elements to exploit that.
But how do you look at terror that comes from outside? Maybe how do you look at the organizations like Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, which are based in Pakistan and highly tuned to attacking India in whatever way it is possible?
I will not say that governance can actually. We are doing as much as possible. Our government has been doing a splendid job in this respect. When it comes to the threat of jihadism in India, I personally believe, and I've said it at many places, that to me it appears that there are three sources of jihadist threat to India. One is the global jihadist organizations, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the likes. The other is the Pakistan-backed terrorist organizations, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar. The third is some of our own homegrown groups. It happens that there is a lot of sometimes a collusion also between these three segments, and unfortunately, sometimes our homegrown groups completely subsume into the ploys of those groups outside. But there is also a separation. They have a slightly different motivation sometimes. They also have different agenda. They also come from different religious, doctrinal orientations, which we can exploit also. A little bit of more understanding, trying to not see at the issue as if it's a monolithic ideology. Every organization has a slightly different agenda than the other. Even in real life, you find every organization a little different. So we need to understand those differences, and we should try to create wedges and firewalls between them. The question is that I personally feel of the three sources, the Pakistan-backed terrorist groups have been the most dangerous for us. Most of the major terrorist attacks have come from Pakistan-based groups. Thankfully, we have been able to curtail any kind of major attack from global jihadist organizations up until now. But even otherwise, because of the proximity and with our neighboring state intent on doing what it does, the danger from cross-border terrorism is much greater to my mind than transnational jihadism.
Propaganda, public relations, ideologies. So how do you want to carry a counter radicalization, a counter jihad kind of a thing internationally from within the country?
I think one thing we have to always reinforce is what is India. India is the Union of India is based on our constitutional values, on our liberal values. We have to keep reaffirming that at the international stage. That we cannot be looked upon as a country like any other banana republic, which is the best place to pontificate at. So, and India's democracy is very mature, it's very strong. Human rights and there's a judicial system, our institutions are very strong. So we have to always reiterate that fact and demonstrate it. The other thing is that if there are protests or demonstrations in the countries, if the people in Kashmir have a particular point of view, a section of the Kashmiri population has a particular point of view, we respect that. So we allow dissent, and we are not like any Arab country where dissent is suppressed. So that aspect of our strong democratic credentials, of our constitutional values, and the fact that it is somehow sometimes being misrepresented as India can be clubbed into some other countries where there is no democracy or something like that. I think we have to keep doing that. No matter how honest and true you are, you also have to present it and demonstrate it. So the time has come where you should also show that you are committed, no matter how committed you are in real terms.
And it is happening through various other things as well, various mediums, culturally.
Yes, yes.
How it is seeping into various.
But this is, I think, this is a phase, and this will also pass because the roots of the country, the democratic credentials of the country are too strong.
Very strong.
Yeah, and I think that even the US and other, it seems as if there was a particular kind of understanding in the West, if I may say it very openly, that probably the Trump administration had certain favorites around the world, certain countries it was very friendly to, and the new administration it is being thought that the new administration or the Biden administration would be closer to other, opposed to those. These are all unfounded ideas, and as soon as the Biden administration starts working, the world will find that India and American relations are very strong.
I spoke about educational institutions. Is it just about the madrasas where the radicalization takes place, or has it seeped into many bigger educational institutions in metros, even in the capital, big universities? And
I think it is there are a lot of myths about madrasas. In the case of Pakistan, yes. In the case of Pakistan, madrasas are jihadi factories. They produce jihadis, not ulamas.
Yeah.
But in case of India, we have found out that it is generally well-educated people who tend to become radicals. Suddenly, after they become graduates or something, they find out that they have not received religious education. They move towards this online kind of understanding of religion. They become Google sheikhs, as they call them, Sheikh Google, and then they end up visiting a kind of a Salafi jihadist website which claims to be teaching them Islam. And without any understanding and without any upbringing in religion, they suddenly start trying to become, a neophyte, and they get all the kind of hate-filled indoctrination from that. So in India, I think it's more complex a picture than just madrasas. However, as I said, suppose if you look at certain madrasas around India's bordering regions, yes, there could be issues. But across the region, it's a more complex picture.
Have we countered it effectively, or more needs to be done?
I think no. We can, I think the fact that we have not had a major terrorist attack from the global jihadist organizations shows that we have been effective. We have also, our police has done a very good job at unobtrusively locating areas of disturbances, involving the society, community elders, the families, because unlike in the West where there are no family structures as such, here in India we have tried to use that social fabric itself to mitigate the issue at that very level from where it might spring. So if there is a young boy who's going visiting certain websites which are objectionable, messages are sent to the family members themselves that something wrong is happening, so please try to counsel your child. So very unobtrusively, even those people who have come back, you will find that they are not mentioned much in the media. It is not blown out of proportions, because that in itself could create a very wrong impression as to and that would become like the things would blow out of proportions. So our media has also helped us in trying to isolate such incidents, and we have found that relatively the number of Indians, very fewer Indians have gone and joined ISIS than people in Europe and other places. So I think it has been very effective. We have been able to stamp the fires before the spark could light up, and we have been doing a very good job at that across provinces. I would say the extent of the crisis which exists in Jammu and Kashmir, our security forces have even done a splendid job there. Things are under control.
That's in a way a very controversial thing to say with certain segments and communities of people. But I guess you being a researcher who's looked into terrorism as well as counter-terrorism issues in depth, and not just in India but globally, would like to,
You see, sometimes we mistake political issues with radicalism. So radicalism is a very complex phenomenon, and the terminologies also are newly invented. And so people sometimes use these terminologies very indiscriminately. What do you mean by extremism? What do you mean by fundamentalism? What do you mean by radicalism? These are all different. And so perhaps we need to have a better understanding of these things. And also we need to understand that there are different motivations and compulsions for people to choose a particular path in life. And the reasons could be so many. And there are certain people who react very aggressively and immediately. There are some people who take time to change. We have to look at the problem in a much more broader way than possible.
So this brings me to the role of the social media in radicalizing the youth, in radicalizing people. How does one actually deal with social media? It's like a double-edged sword.
I think there are big issues when it comes to social media. I also feel that the very model with which they do business is not conducive to any kind of censorship. The whole idea is that even if you have half-baked or unbaked ideas in your mind, you could just spew that hate onto the social media, and this kind of a visceral outpouring creates a very bad. If you talk about freedom of expression, it is not even full expression. It is just you're venting your spleen out there. And there's a difference between liberty and freedom. We need to understand that. But more importantly, what we are trying to do on the internet, that we block certain websites, we block certain social media handles, whatever. But blocking is not the answer. We need to have a counter to that. For whatever the terrorist organization says, we should have an ideological counter to that. It should be around that very, maybe we should use SEOs or something. So that the person who's reading that also finds the alternative viewpoint. The young generation also needs to have what is the other side saying. So that battle has not even started.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. Nice speaking with you. We hope to get to hear more often. Thanks.